Welcome again to our presentations. This evening we will continue with talking about the Bible reliability. It will be a part 2 as we discussed, because it's a very important topic and we have to clarify it really before we go into other subjects which depend on the reliability of the Bible. Because if we can't trust the Bible, of course we can't take it as a foundation for what we speak. Just a short review about what we discussed last week. We asked this question, can we trust the Bible? And we already spoke about archaeology, that archaeology says yes, we can trust the Bible. We spoke about history, and the history says yes, we can trust the Bible. We spoke about the Quran, and probably it was a surprise for some of us that the Quran itself advises people to read the Bible, because the Bible is reliable. The last prophet sent by God, Ellen White, again says that the Bible was preserved by a divine hand. So yes, we can trust the Bible. Now, we promised last week that today we will discuss about science and the Bible, and the fulfillment of prophecies and the Bible. Now, archaeology and history are part of what we call science. So somehow we covered part of this topic even last week, because archaeology and history, they are science. Nobody will deny that archaeology is something else than science. But what about conflicts between what the Bible says and other branches of science? Because some people will say, okay, archaeology may be in agreement with the Bible, history can be in agreement with the Bible, but what about biology? What about geology? What about other sciences? Now, let's see first two tables which are pretty interesting about affirmations made by the Bible which were confirmed later on in history. I would say very late in history, by the way. Thinking about the fact that the Bible was written, starting with 1400s before Christ and until 100 AD, many discoveries, most of the scientific discoveries we have today, and we kind of are sure that they are true, they were made around, let's say, 14 centuries, 15 centuries after the Bible was completed to be written. And I will just read quickly some of these affirmations of the Bible which were confirmed later on in history by the science. Both man and woman possess the seed of life. This was confirmed only in the 17th century. Pretty late. There is a place void of stars in the north. Confirmed again just in the 19th century. On the second column you can see the biblical verses. So whenever you have time and you want to check if all these things are really in the Bible, you can check for yourself. The earth is round. The prophet Isaiah said this many centuries even before the coming of Jesus Christ. And the confirmation came in the science only in the 15th century. Early diagnosis of leprosy. Many people know very well that in the book of Leviticus, in the Old Testament, you had a pretty interesting description of how you can diagnose the leprosy. So it was a very useful, of course, instruction from God, but it was confirmed by the science only in the 17th century. Quarantine for disease control. It's a very simple thing today as we think about it, but not too many people understood its importance back in the past. Blood of animals carries diseases. again confirmed very late in the history, 17th century. Most seaworthy ship design ratio is 30:5:3. So these were the dimensions or the ratio for the Ark of Noah. You remember the story of the flood, and God instructed Noah how to build the ark, the ship. Very late in history, these proportions were confirmed by science. Light is a particle and has mass, a photon. Just in 1932, it was discovered that light is a particle and that the light has mass. Another table. Infinite number of stars exist. Probably in old times people thought that they can count the stars if they look carefully on the sky. If there is a clear sky with a very good view, you can try probably to count the stars, but the Bible said, you can't. You can't count the stars. Air has weight. Again, it was probably a surprise for many people when they discovered that science confirmed this truth spoken in the Bible. Light can be split up into component colors. Again, discovered in 1650. Matter is made up of invisible particles. Again, confirmed only in the 20th century. Plants use sunlight to manufacture food. Again, discovered only in 1920. Life originated in the sea. Genesis 1 says it in the beginning of the Bible, beginning of the Old Testament. It was confirmed only in the 19th century. Lightning and thunder are related. Job said it, well, inspired by God, and what we have in the book of Job was recorded by Moses, and this scientific truth was discovered or confirmed only in the 19th century. Now, it's very interesting that the Bible has this kind of scientific accuracy, and you will see in the next table not only that it has this kind of accuracy, but the fathers of modern science, of what we call modern science, all these people, they were strong Bible believers. And again, I will show you two tables, and you will see on the first column the discipline where these scientists were, let's say, the fathers of that discipline, and in the second column you will see the name of the scientist and when that specific scientist lived. Physical astronomy, for this discipline, Johann Kepler was the, let's say, kind of founder. Paleontology, John Woodward, and remember, all these people, they were Bible believers. Calculus, Isaac Newton. Celestial mechanics, again Johann Kepler. Chemistry, Robert Boyle. Hydraulics, Leonardo da Vinci. Hydrostatics, Blaise Pascal. Dimensional analysis, Lord Rayleigh. Dynamics, Isaac Newton. Electronics, John Ambrose Fleming. Electrodynamics, James Clerk Maxwell. Electromagnetics, Michael Faraday. And all these names are very well known in all the textbooks and among all those who love a little bit, at least, the science. Energetics, Lord Kelvin. Gas dynamics, Robert Boyle. Bacteriology, Louis Pasteur. Fluid mechanics, George Stokes. Galactic astronomy, William Herschel. Antiseptic surgery, Joseph Lister. Genetics, Gregor Mendel. And I made just a selection in these two tables because the list is very, very long. You will find many sources on internet where you can check it yourself. And I made just a short selection in all these two tables to show that all the very known fathers of modern science were people who strongly believed in the reliability of the Bible. Now I will just give you few details about Isaac Newton as a short example. He lived between 1642 and 1727. And I will read a quote. Newton saw God as the masterful creator whose existence could not be denied in the face of the grandeur of all creation. So Newton really believed in the God of the Bible, who is the creator of the whole earth. Now, a fact which is not very well known by many people is that this Isaac Newton, who is very known in physics and generally in science, he had a very big passion to study the Bible. He was not just maybe a man who went to church, but he was a man who studied deeply the Bible. This is why he wrote a book called Observations upon the Prophecies of Daniel and the Apocalypse of St. John. Not too many people, I think, expect today to hear that Isaac Newton spent his time writing such a book. He didn't publish this book while he was alive. The book was written by him, but was published after his death. But the book was written by Isaac Newton, which is, I would say, a very, very interesting fact. And I will give you one more detail about Isaac Newton. He spent, is another quote from Wikipedia, spent a great deal of time trying to discover hidden messages within the Bible. He understood that the Bible has many treasures, and you have to dig deep down if you want really to discover things which are important and very interesting in the Bible. After 1690, Newton wrote a number of religious tracts dealing with the literal interpretation of the Bible. In a manuscript Newton wrote in 1704, he describes his attempts to extract scientific information from the Bible. So not only that he wanted to understand the biblical prophecy, which you saw in the previous quote, that he wrote this book, Observations upon the Prophecies of Daniel and the Apocalypse, or the book of Revelation. But he understood also that the Bible has many scientific truths. And as a scientist, he understood that, okay, so if I am a scientist and I'm passionate about science, and if I want to understand better the creation and everything around me, the universe, what I need to do is to study very seriously the Bible, to understand things from there, because there may be information, even scientific information, hidden in the Bible. And yeah, he had this kind of passion about trying to discover all these things. Now, many people will say, okay, these fathers of modern science, maybe they were still influenced heavily by the environment around them. The society was still a religious one, and maybe this is why they were strongly Bible believers. What about the modern science and the modern scientists? Well, we know very well that with the rise of, with the appearance of Darwin and his famous theory about evolution, many scientists embraced his theory and decided to build all their knowledge and explanations on that foundation of evolution. But the big news, and I don't think it's any more kind of news, it's really a fact and very well-known fact, is that even in our times many people wake up, I would say, and they are not enchanted anymore by the theory of evolution, but they choose to think differently. And I will give you some examples. John Lennox is a mathematician and philosopher of science. He's a professor of mathematics at the University of Oxford. You can find many videos online with him participating in public debates against individuals like Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Lawrence Krauss, Michael Shermer. All these guys, you know, they are kind of leading scientists who try to defend evolution and who try to explain everything with evolution and all these godless, I would say, theories. But this John Lennox is not the only example believing strongly in the Bible and in the God of the Bible, and having serious debates with those who can't believe that the Bible is trustworthy and it's really a reliable book, even from a scientific point of view. But there are also many other examples. For example, in Edinburgh, there is a group called Edinburgh Creation Group. And you will find out, if you make your own searches on internet, there are some university teachers, university professors who used to be atheists, but now they are Christians. They believe in the creation of the earth, in the reliability of the Bible, and it's not a surprise anymore for me that many PhD atheist scientists who used to maybe defy the knowledge of the Bible, now they really believe in a creator. And there is a very interesting website, you can try to see it online yourself, called descentfromdarwin.org. Yeah? It's a very interesting appeal, and I read that more than 700 scientists already signed a kind of, not petition, but this kind of declaration that they can't rely on the theory of evolution and on what Darwin said in the past in their approach regarding science. And as you can see on the screen, these signers of the scientific descent from Darwinism hold doctorates in biological sciences, physics, chemistry, mathematics, medicine, computer science, and related disciplines from such institutions as Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Dartmouth, Rutgers, University of Chicago, Stanford, and University of California at Berkeley. So it's not about people who are not educated. It's not about those who are not informed well enough, who maybe go to church and they maybe they don't use their brain too much. It's about very intelligent people who compare what Darwin said in the past and his theories with what the science says now and with the facts. And they just can't make harmony between what Darwin said and what they see now as being science. And all these people, they sign these kind of declarations and they say, well, I can't agree with what Darwin said, and I have a PhD. I teach students. I'm not just a cleaner in a university. I'm not just preparing food maybe in a canteen. I am a teacher, and I can't trust what Darwin says because it's just not scientifically true. I'll read just one more quote written by a professor of neurosurgery and pediatrics at State University of New York. Darwinism is a trivial idea that has been elevated to the status of the scientific theory that governs modern biology. And what this doctor says is, and he's again professor also, not just a doctor, is that people still build on a theory which is, let's say, becoming more and more clear that it's kind of myth and not science. This is just a short, I would say, declaration about what modern science says and the Bible, what science generally says and the Bible. There is no real conflict between these two. And I will go to the second point announced that we will discuss, and this is about fulfilled prophecies and reliability of the Bible. Now, I will read two quotes from the Bible because you will see why God placed these predictions, these prophecies in the Bible. In Isaiah 46 verses 9 and 10, the Bible says, "I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times things not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish all my purpose." As you can see from this first verse from the Bible, God declares about Himself that He is the only one, He is the only God, and He declares from the beginning what will happen in the future. And the second verse is from John 14 verse 29, and these are the words of Jesus. "And now I have told you before it takes place, so that when it does take place, you may believe." And this is the reason why God placed prophecies, predictions in the Bible. God knew that, especially in our times, I would say back in the past, there was not so much doubt about God's existence. Even now in some parts of the world, you can't meet the same doubt in God's existence as you can see it in Western Europe, as you can see it in the United States and in other developed countries. But we face it, and God knew that people will question even His existence. And this is why God placed in the Bible some evidences which can't be denied by any, I would say, rational and intelligent mind, if, of course, you take the time, you take your time to analyze and to search seriously all these arguments. Now, I mentioned this thing because also I had my own doubts in the past. When I became a Christian, I would say immediately after that I started to have more doubts even than before I was a Christian and a Bible student. It may sound a bit strange maybe for some people, but I can say that I felt a kind of heavy attack from the Prince of Darkness, from Satan, who was trying to invade my mind with all kinds of doubts about the reliability of the Bible. And I started to think, but I can really trust this book, because if this book is not 100%, not just 50%, if it's not 100% reliable, then all the true things which I found, they are just interesting theories in harmony with the book. But though they are in harmony with this book, with the Bible, if I don't have a strong proof that God really exists and that the Bible is completely reliable, then all these things are kind of collapsing. All this building, all these things I try to build, they don't have a proper foundation. This is why I will emphasize this evening the importance of fulfilled prophecies to understand that the Bible is reliable, and in the same time this is an argument which we will discuss a bit later in our other topics about God's existence. Because prophecy, the fulfilled prophecy, is also a strong argument about God's existence. The Bible is really unique among all the books in the world because it is, and I emphasize this, the only one containing huge number of prophecies already fulfilled, predictions made centuries before specific historical events happened. And not only that, but if you try to compare it with other books, so-called holy books in the world, like Vedas, like Quran, like Book of Mormon, like Bhagavad Gita, you'll see that no other book has so many precise or numerical predictions similar to the ones from the Bible, which also fulfilled with an amazing precision. Because, and this is the reason, because nobody can make those predictions than God. Well, you see this list, and this list is not a very complete one. There are many holy books, or considered holy books in the world, and I found on internet, I think, about 56 religions who claim that they have holy books. So not only the Bible, not only the Quran are considered holy books, not only the Book of Mormon is considered a holy book, but many books are considered holy books. And you'll find interesting prophecies, but very general ones in all these books. Well, of course, many of them, if you read the text and you see also the interpretation given by the followers of that specific book, you'll feel many times that the interpretation is very forced. They try to force the text and to apply to modern things and say, well, look, this is the fulfillment of that prophecy. But when you look at the text, you can't see really the text talking about what the modern worshippers and followers of that book are saying. I tried, for example, to follow some of the, let's say, claimed prophecies from the Quran. And when I looked into the text, I also had a look in the context, to read some verses above, to read some verses below. And when I read the context, I said, but you can't apply this verse to things which are happening today, and really it has no link. I mean, there it speaks about a very specific context. For example, if the passage speaks about hell, and it's clearly speaking about hell, well, you can't take, because there is a prophecy, kind of so-called prophecy, that the schemes of the people will testify against them. Now, many people will say, and they are saying actually, that that was a prophecy about fingerprints, and that the Quran predicted the use of fingerprints to identify persons today. Yeah, but you can't use that verse and other verses from the Quran like that. If you look at the context speaks clearly about the hell and the punishment of people in hell, and their schemes will give a kind of testimony there. But if you read carefully, you can't make this kind of application for what happens today. Yeah, so many people are trying to force the text because they understand that the Bible is very powerful also because of the prophecy, because of the fulfilled prophecies. And many people will try to find in their other holy books arguments about prophecy, prophecies done about future. But you will see some of the biblical prophecies today, and you can compare, of course, these ones with the ones which are claimed to be prophecies. One specific thing in the Bible is the number of prophecies. Many people are saying that there are even more than 300 prophecies in the Old Testament about Jesus Christ, and all these prophecies were fulfilled in the life of Jesus Christ. Of course, some people will say, yeah, but everybody, knowing that things were written about his life, can lead his life in a way to fulfill those things already written. But as you can see on the screen, some of these prophecies which were really outside of Jesus' control, as place of his birth. He couldn't control the place of his birth. If he was just a human being like any one of us, and as some people claim that Jesus was just a simple teacher, a good man, maybe even a prophet, then he couldn't control the place of his birth, the time of his birth. He had no power about the manner of his birth, about his betrayal, and all the details about his betrayal, the manner of his death, the people's reactions, the piercing of his side and his burial, and the list can continue. All these prophecies, all these examples are beyond our control. You can't control these things. They might be written somewhere, but you can't control them and their fulfillment. And I will show you now two tables with fulfilled prophecies in the life of Jesus. Now I won't read the verses. You can see on the second column the verses from the Old Testament which predicted these many details from the life of Jesus. Of course, I won't give you now all those 300 prophecies. I made just a short selection of them. But even if you take, I would say, 10 of them and try to make a mathematical calculation to understand what probability there is to fulfill 10 prophecies in the life of just one person, you will find out with good mathematics that the number is huge and the possibility is very, very little. On the third column you see the text in the New Testament which testifies that the prophecy from the Old Testament was fulfilled. Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. Yeah, it was the name of the town, the name of the locality was specifically mentioned in the Bible. Messiah would be born of a virgin. Messiah would come from the tribe of Judah. Messiah would spend a season in Egypt. A massacre of children would happen at Messiah's birthplace. A messenger would prepare the way for Messiah. Messiah would be rejected by his own people, betrayed by a friend, sold for 30 pieces of silver, not for 29, not for 31, not for 50, not for 100, not for 5, but for exactly 30 pieces of silver. And all these prophecies, they were fulfilled very precisely. Now a second table speaks about the same things. Messiah's price of betrayal money would be used to buy a potter's field. How can you control that? How can you control that? Messiah would be crucified with criminals. Again, how can you control that? Why Jesus was not crucified alone? Why there were two others crucified with him in the same day, in the same moment? Messiah's hands and feet would be pierced. People would gamble for Messiah's garments. Again, how can you control that? Messiah's bones would not be broken, when we know very well that the bones of the other two who were crucified with Jesus, they were broken to make their death faster. Messiah's side would be pierced. Messiah would be buried with the rich. Messiah would be a sacrifice for sin. Messiah would resurrect from the dead. This, I say again, is just a small list with prophecies fulfilled in the life of Jesus. And many of them, nobody could control them. Yes? So only if God's hand was really leading the whole history of the world, and is still leading the whole history of the world, only if God's hand was leading all the events around Jesus' life, only in that moment we can understand and accept that all these things were possible. Otherwise, without God's involvement, we can't have this kind of predictions being fulfilled with so much precision. And again, all these prophecies fulfilled are a strong argument for the reliability of the Bible. Another prophecy and it's a very important one in the Old Testament, is in Daniel 9 verses 24-27. This one is that kind of mathematical precision, fulfillment of the prophecy which I was talking about previously. The prophecy in Daniel said that there will be 490 years since the moment when the Jews started to rebuild the Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem, and until the, I would say, the first rejection, big rejection of the gospel on the side of the Jews. And also the same prophecy gave the exact date of the year when Jesus was baptized. Gave also the precise year when Jesus was crucified in 31 AD. 34 AD is the year when the first Christian was killed by the Jews. And you will see from this second table a very short description of all these numbers. Yeah? In 457 we have the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem issued by the Persian king Artaxerxes. In 408 BC Jerusalem was completely rebuilt. The prophecy said that during the time of 49 years Jerusalem will be rebuilt. And exactly in this time of 49 years, Jerusalem was completely rebuilt. 27 AD, Jesus Christ was baptized and he began his public ministry. It's the time when the prophecy says Messiah will be anointed. And this anointed meant that Jesus was baptized, and it was also that outward sign when the Holy Spirit descended on him in the form of a dove. And from that moment of the baptism of Jesus we have the start of Jesus' ministry. In 31 AD Jesus was crucified. His ministry was ended in the middle of the last prophetic week, meaning after 3 years and a half. And after other 3 years and a half we have the martyrdom of Stephen, which sealed the rejection of the gospel by the Jewish nation. And this rejection of the gospel ended those 490 years specifically allotted to the Jews. Another amazing prophecy is in Daniel 8 verse 14. The one we saw in the previous slide was part of this prophecy from Daniel 8. I won't go into the details of the prophecy because it's too complex, it takes too much time to explain everything. What I wanted to show you from this other chart is the period of 1260 years, which was prophesied in the Bible, both in the Old Testament, in the book of Daniel, and in the New Testament, in the book of Revelation. So all these two books, these books speak about the same number, 1260 years. And this was the period when the Catholic Church, when the Papal Rome had supremacy in Europe. This period started in 538 and ended in 1798. Now, you will see it's very interesting that the Bible speaks in very specific terms about the coming of the Messiah. So about Jesus we have mathematical precision about fulfillment of prophecy. Then we have the same precision about the supremacy of the Papal Rome. And we discussed in a previous presentation about the Dark Ages, the persecution of the Christians, and we know that that period was a very long period. In the history, we had that kind of Inquisition which tried to stop the spread of the Reformation in Europe. And this is why the Bible spoke about this time of persecution and of the supremacy of Rome. Now, the same precision which we find it about the Messiah, which you find it about the papal Rome, you will see in the next slide, we find it about something else, which is very present in our, let's say, news, in our times. The first point on this slide, I already mentioned it, but the second one is the one announced. The rise of Islam was predicted in Revelation chapter 9, and it was labeled as a hurting power, a destroying power, and as a smoke. And the Bible used the symbol of a smoke to show that it was darkness coming from Islam, in contrast with the light of the gospel. Also, the same Bible predicted 3 periods of major conflicts between Christianity and Islam. Even in Islam, these periods are called by themselves the 3 jihads. It's not about Christians calling these periods the 3 jihads. It's about the Muslim people calling themselves these periods the 3 jihads. 2 of them happened in the past, and the third one is happening today. About the same power, the power of the Islam. The Bible spoke about 150 years from the founding of the Ottoman Empire until its supremacy was recognized by the Byzantine Empire. And you can see the years here from 1299 until 1449. So the Ottoman Empire was founded in 1299, and it grew progressively in power until it became so powerful that the Byzantine Empire recognized its supremacy in 1449. And I can't talk too much about that date, but to say it just shortly, in that moment the Greek Empire, which was the Byzantine Empire, when they wanted to appoint a new king, for the first time in their history, they asked for permission from the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. That was the first sign that the supremacy of the Ottoman Empire is recognized in the world of that time. And immediately, in just few years after that date, in 1453, we have the fall of Constantinople, which was the capital of the Byzantine Empire and became the today's Istanbul, which is the capital of Turkey. Well, it was the top capital of Turkey. Now is a different capital, is Ankara, but it used to be the capital of Turkey and the capital of the whole Ottoman Empire. And another prophecy which was again fulfilled with mathematical precision was about the year, the month and the day of the end of the Ottoman Empire supremacy. 11th of August 1840 was a very interesting date predicted by the Bible, which was fulfilled. And again, how can you say that the Bible doesn't predict things with mathematical precision? You know, everything was prophesied there, and it was a big argument, and it is a big argument that we can rely on the precision of the Bible. Now, nobody in the world really could make those predictions without being inspired by God. Remember, we spoke in other occasions, the Bible was written by man, by people, but these people, they were inspired by God. And the Bible is the only book in the world containing such predictions. And I will read again those 2 verses from the Bible which were mentioned in the beginning. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from the ancient times things not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish all my purpose. And as you could see, God really accomplished all what He said centuries before those things happened. And Jesus said, now I have told you before it takes place, so that when it does take place, you may believe. And this is the power of prophecy in the Bible. When you have any doubts that the Bible is not reliable, that there is no God, or you can't rely on God's help, on God's intervention, if this God portrayed in the Bible had the power to lead nations, to lead events, and to accomplish things with that kind of mathematical precision, then for sure He can intervene in our lives and He can make miracles today. I will kind of come to an end showing you these kind of different books which are called by people holy books, but emphasizing, of course, that none of them is like the Bible. I placed also a picture with the book of Nostradamus. Many people are very attracted by Nostradamus because he made kind of prophecies, but again, when you look at the text, it's so much subjectivity, I would say, when you try to interpret, and when you try to say, well, these verses from the book of Nostradamus are fulfilled today. They are not comparable with what the Bible says. And the last slide is one which I used also in one of the first presentations. I would say we really have the right map in our hands. We really live in a kind of big labyrinth, in this kind of Babylon of today. But God calls us to get out of this Babylon, get out of this labyrinth. And it's true, many people are confused, and many people are saying, but I would like to get out of this Babylon. I would like to have the certainty that I'm going in the right direction, that I'm following the right God, that I'm reading the right book. But how can I know these things? Well, I hope really that this presentation was and is a help for all those who are confused and who really want a map, a proper map, which can lead them out of this Babylon and of course can show them the right way to heaven. And my prayer is, of course, that God will help each one of us to spend time, serious time with this map, because otherwise, even if you know that this map is good, if you don't consult it seriously, if you don't spend time abundantly and seriously every day with prayer, with fasting even, with meditation, with an open heart, with honesty, then even with a map, if you don't use it, you can't find a way out. May God bless each one of us with wisdom and a good heart to follow His instructions. Amen.